I don't know what you call it. I think it's to stir or to filter it. They left it in the bucket. Well, when paint separates, the water goes to the top. Well, the top of that thing is rusted, so I'm gonna try to pull it out.
Without getting it to be orange paint? Without making it orange paint?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Okay, if anybody hasn't signed in over here at the book, if they want to speak, please do so.
And we have a space there for them to come up.
Yep. Everybody ready? Supervisors? Staff? All right, I'm going to call the meeting of the Halfmoon Township Board of Supervisors to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. All right. This evening's meeting will be recorded live on CNET's YouTube channel. You may also view it locally. Produce programs at www.cnet1.org. If you have any interest in doing anything with the township, please send your email information to www.halfmoontwp.us and click Contact Us on the homepage. And we also are looking for volunteers on the Planning Commission and other boards and commissions. Please contact Amy Smith. The township supervisors had an executive session regarding the hiring of a public works laborer. I don't remember what the date was on that. Do you remember offhand?
That was after the last regular meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So that would have been.
yeah, at the last supervisors meeting. I don't remember don't recall the date. I guess I can look.
Must be the 12th.
Yeah, May 12th. May 12th to discuss hiring new
Can't
employees.
hear us. The people on Zoom can't hear us.
All right, we'll hold for a minute here to get the sound straightened out. I can hear it feeding back.
Can I hear now? Testing.
Can you guys hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Next on the agenda is citizen comments. Does anybody have any citizen comments they would like to talk about? Yes, please, come up and state your name and go through the litany here.
Karen Miller, and I would just like to know what the status is on a manager for the township and a roadmaster for the township. Is the plan of the board that we're just not gonna hire those people and just keep the money in the pot, and that's how you're gonna keep the taxes low?
Well, that's later on in the agenda. We're going to talk about the people that we did hire and officially sign them in.
Do we are we doing anything with getting, like, are we going to have a manager for the township, or is that?
Well, I imagine at some point we will, yes.
At some point, are we advertising for one?
No.
Not currently. We're in the process
Are we
of,
working on getting up whatever it is that you think we should be included in the job description to hire somebody?
Ron, you were working on this, so you can.
We're reviewing the ordinance, the manager ordinance,
And what about-
and the personnel manual as well.
and what
There's some
about the
issues, pardon?
what about the-
Roadmaster position was advertised, and then it was withdrawn because of developments in the hiring of new people. And that's not to say that that's never gonna happen, but right now, we're trying to, we'll make an announcement later in the meeting, right,
Yeah.
regarding new employees. And then that will answer some of those questions, okay? So, but it's not off the table, it's not, then we're never gonna do it. It's just that we are reviewing it.
Okay, okay, we haven't had a manager or a roadmaster now for quite some time. We're already almost at the end of May. Before you know it, it's gonna be winter again, and we're gonna have all kinds of issues with snow and plowing and such.
Right, and-
I'm sure that actually Amy and Brett and the other people who work for the township, I'm sure that they're picking up extra duties and everything else, and it just seems as if
Well,
something.
they could address that with you if you would like to, then come into the office and discuss it with them, if you like. I don't think they're under any tremendous pressure at this point. Amy, Brett, do you wanna make any comment about it? Your workload? It's your workload.
Personally, from my aspect, I can just say my workload hasn't changed much. That's about all.
I'm not sure that they want to say in public or would want to even talk to me. I'm just saying, we had a position, I'm just wondering, are those positions going to be filled or not? Because it just seems like a long time is going on, and now I'm not seeing anything on the agenda. I know the last meeting, there wasn't anything on the agenda. So I'm just wondering.
Well,
And
it's,
again, if we don't need those positions, then tell the township, tell us that.
well, that's something that we're trying to sort out.
Number 5 on the back there.
No, I didn't get all of it.
Number 5.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, hearing, or seeing nobody else wishing to ask any questions or make any comments, let's move on to subdivision land development
We gotta
plans.
Approve the agenda.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. I don't have my good reading glasses tonight. Approval of the agenda.
I motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
Bob makes a motion. Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Ron seconds. Any discussion by the board? No discussion. Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. The agenda stands. Okay, subdivision land development plans for conditional uses and public hearings. First item on the agenda is the Bradley Barter subdivision discussion. Corey, you want to give an overview?
Yes, they have a property located off of Halfmoon Valley Road. They are in our open space program. They would like to talk about the possibility of a waiver to our Chapter 215 subdivision and land use for having public road access. If you'd like to elaborate on that a little more?
You bet.
Please take a seat and introduce yourself.
Yep. I'm Bruce Kirkpatrick with Hallbaker Engineering. I'm here to represent Brad Barter and Tracy Wagner, the property owners. They are interested in constructing a residence on property that he's owned, Brad has owned since November of 2013. Do you have the PowerPoint? Can you pull that up? There we go. So you can click through some of these initial slides. So the original lot 5 was subdivided, I believe, and then lot 5B was subdivided out of that in 2013. I think the original subdivision was in 2006, at which time I believe is when the entire property was put into the open space easement. In 2013, it was that lot 5 was subdivided into lot 5A and lot 5B. Lot 5B is the property that Brad owns. Next slide, please. So our view is that the original intent of that plan, of the subdivision plan in 2013, was to allow a proposed house on that property. If you look at the plan, it clearly shows a proposed house site, proposed well, and reserve and primary septic areas. And then I think there's some plan notes in there. Go back a couple, there's some plan notes that we skipped, that one more, right there. So the plan notes also notes 15 through 20 all speak in reference to a proposed development for one residence on the lot. I won't go through the notes in specific, but it's fairly clear from looking at the plans that there was some intent to allow development of a residence on this property. All right, next slide. And next one. So if we look at the open space preservation ordinance, next slide. There's basically the allowance for some, it's titled open space land use restrictions, but it actually more tells you what's permitted. One is farm structures, which doesn't apply to what the issue we're talking about. The other is farm worker housing, allows for the development of one single family residence or dormitory residences for every 60 acres included in the land lease. The other, section 3, permits a parcel of 11 acres or greater to construct a residence as long as that parcel didn't contain a residence at the time. And it has to be done in accordance with subsection E1H, which is the next slide, which basically says, back one, please. There you go. No, back. Back. So that's E1H, or yeah, E1H, says where a parcel in the open space program containing a single family dwelling is subdivided pursuant to that section D3, the resulting parcel without the dwelling shall not be improved with a single family dwelling. So basically what that says is because it was a lot 5 originally that had a single family dwelling on it, that lot 5B would be precluded from developing a residence on that lot because of this ordinance. I would note that this ordinance appears to have been added in 2019, 6 years after the original subdivision, or the second subdivision that created lot 5B. So go to the next slide. So this specifically details the subdivision requirements. Basically, it allows up to 10% of the lot to be subdivided off to be developed for a single-family residence home. In this case, that results in an area of ground about 10.6 acres. Next slide, please. Yeah, go back one. And finally, the ordinance allows for the termination of the easement. Most of the language in that, it's up to the discretion of the board. It's not up to the property owner. There's some exclusions if the primary ownership or primary income of the property owner is impacted by the easement, that they can come back and request, but that's not applicable in this case. So I just point that out there. I'm kind of presenting all the options at this point so we can discuss what would be most preferable to the board. Next slide, please. So subdivision options, if we look at the Saldo, section 2518B, section 1, it says all lots shall have direct access to a public street. Next slide. At the time of development, I believe, this was the ordinance in effect at that time, there was an exception for rural preservation developments. To realize this isn't specifically a rural preservation development, but it's along those lines for keeping of open space. It did allow for access through a private lot to basically to that open space or rural preservation lot at the time. That's since been stricken from the ordinance. Next slide, please. So the configuration of lot 5B all comes down to the panhandle that's shown there in the upper right corner with the arrow. It's 100 feet wide, except for right at the corner, there's an existing single-family house right there at the corner. And then the next slide, you can see that next set. So that's a zoom of that location. It necks that down to a little under 53 feet wide at that point. Next slide. I think we went back. Yeah, go next. We're going backwards for some reason. So basically, it comes down to 4 options, and I'm not saying that any of these are preferenced or preferred. Brad and Tracy would prefer to develop the property with one house without having to subdivide if they can avoid that. If we can't make that happen, they're willing to do that, but from just having a separate piece of land that becomes an encumbrance of, it's a piece of property that they never intend to sell, but it would be 2 separate tax bills. The size of the lot is 10.6 acres. Hopefully we could keep the residential lot within clean and green. We haven't addressed that with the county yet to see if 10.6 is large enough to do that. My understanding is 10 is, but sometimes they're as an exclusion for a certain amount of residents on that lot. Some counties require larger than others. So the options we came down with would be to construct one single-family residence without a subdivision based on the original and planned intent and what we believe were the ordinances in effect at the time of that subdivision approval. Option 2 would be, and we realize this is a bit of a stretch, but wanted to throw it out there for discussion, would be construction of a single-family residence without subdivision, defining it as farm worker housing. Option 3, which we probably all recognize as probably remove that without even putting it up there, but it's there again for discussion. It would be the termination of easement. And then option 4 would be subdivision of 10% or a 10.6 acre lot. But that would require a waiver from the current saldo that requires all lots to have direct access to a public street, because there's no way to subdivide that 156 acres, I think. There's no way to subdivide that without creating a parcel that would require an easement, because there's no other public access to that other than through the panhandle.
You'd be landlocked.
It would be landlocked, yes.
But it would be through their own
It would
property.
be through their own property, we could have an easement through their own property. So the reason we didn't come in here and present a strict waiver request, we wanted to kind of present this all to you folks and get some discussion and some understanding of maybe a direction that you guys would be most comfortable with us pursuing.
You're not asking for any kind of approval tonight, I take it?
No, we're not. We're just here for discussion purposes to kind of get a feel for what you guys would be most comfortable with.
Well, obviously, you've had a little bit of time to run through our ordinances and look at it. Personally, I think township staff and township supervisors are gonna need to have a little bit of bouncing information around with the solicitor and see what those possibilities are, ramifications, obviously. I will tell you, I'm very reluctant to grant waivers.
All right.
Just personally, I can't speak for the rest of the board,
Yep.
but certainly, we can take a look at it
Okay.
and be in contact if you make sure Amy has your information. We can have staff look at it and make recommendations to the board, and maybe we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question there? So, to me, option 4 is the closest if it wasn't for the street access, because they can take, you're saying with taking the 10.6, they can't have their house where they want and still include all the property down to the road?
There's no way to subdivide that in any way, shape. I mean, we can put the house clear at the back, we can put the house at the front, but any way you subdivide that, all the access is through that panhandle that's necked down to 53 feet.
But that's still where the access would be, right?
Correct.
And it's just, then the only waiver is coming through their own property, and it's still not really a public driveway, it's only their driveway, and they still have direct access to the road, to the public road.
And that land would never be developable because it's in the open space ordinance. It's under the open
Right.
space easement.
Yeah.
And
You
the
probably
full
both in clean and
10%
green.
would be included in the parcel that they would build upon.
To me, that one seems to make the most sense.
Sure.
Is the reason we're in this problem because the property was already in the open space program and then it was subdivided after?
Correct.
Okay,
And what
so,
I'm not sure of is that one section that was added, I think I said in 2019, whether that would, I don't know what the ordinance looked like before that, because I don't,
What was added to that was the raising of
Okay.
the house. That
Okay.
was what the additional
All
ordinance
right.
was.
And then that 10.6 acres would be pulled out of the open space, so they're getting their open space payments on the land that's left, that's still in the program, but that 10.6 is pulled out, so they're not getting the payments on that because it's pulled out for this house.
And I guess there was an advance payment made that they were,
Yes.
that they would have to refund.
Portion of it, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what was in Amy's, okay.
Giving us a lot to chew on tonight.
There's a lot there, that's why we didn't come in here with the.
No, this is very helpful, and from everything I've read and before the meeting and have seen, that, like I said, based on what we've done before, that seems to be a viable option, but I understand we need some time to just discuss it.
Thank you for coming in with this much information. There's no such thing as too much information at this type of thing, so,
It's nice that it was concise.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Try to present it as quickly as I can.
Yes.
Still include everything, so. All right.
So how do we follow up on this?
I think staff is gonna need to take what's presented here tonight and kind of give their view of yes, no, maybe, what could happen, some options back to the board, and the board can consider what staff has, and then hopefully, with review by our solicitor, we can make a decision, or, I don't know what everybody's feelings are on it. But we sort of need to know what staff
Yes.
says about it first.
Okay,
All right.
All right, thank you for coming in.
thank you.
Okay, next on the list is the Don Houtz Final Minor Subdivision Plan 2021-04. Expires on July 13th, 2022. And we have some waiver requests.
Yeah, we received this plan back in, I believe, November of last year. It's a minor lot line adjustment off of TLD Circle. Don is actually adding .29 acres to his property, which will bring his property into compliance. It'll have road frontage on TLD Circle. He is requesting a waiver to be treated as a final minor subdivision because there are no utilities being added. And he is also requesting a waiver of Chapter 21519, which is for the sewage disposal on his property. It's an ag lot right now, so if any land development or any subdivision at the time, he would be required to do the sewage testing then. Staff is recommending approval of both waivers and the plan.
Okay. Don, what do you think?
The piece of ground that's being subdivided off is basically covered with gravel now as part of a roadway and that. So the idea that that might be part of a approved septic area just doesn't seem
There's
possible.
no danger there.
Yeah, so I don't think, I'm not concerned about the sewage disposal there.
Supervisors?
So the main purpose is a lot line adjustment, right? On property that's owned by the same person. Same-
One is owned by Don and Tanya House, and the other is the Lynn Whitaker property.
Okay.
And they have sewage testing on that. They have a house there.
Okay.
Any other questions, concerns?
none.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the waiver request of Saldo Chapter 215-19 sanitary sewage disposal on the House final minor subdivision.
Patty made a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Bob seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of granting the waiver on 215-19 for sanitary sewage disposal on the Don House property, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Next waiver request on 215-18.
15.
215-8.
15-8, yeah.
That's just to be treated as a minor final.
Okay.
Yeah. So just so we don't have to see the same plan next month.
Right. All right, do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve waiver request of Saldo Chapter 215-8 for House minor subdivision.
Patty made a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Ron seconds. Any discussion by the board? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor of approving the waiver of the Saldo Chapter 215-8, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Okay, and last but not least, approve or deny Plan 2021-04 Dawn House Final Minor Subdivision. And I assume everybody's okay with it?
I'll make the motion that we approve Plan 2021-04 Don House Final Minor Subdivision.
We have a motion to approve the plan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Patty seconds. Do I hear any discussion? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor of approving the Dawn House minor subdivision plan signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Plan approved. Does he have an engineer here tonight, or
Nope.
he's not here tonight either, huh? Okay, well, I guess we can sign it whenever. All right, let's move on to the next one. We have the Weaver replot of tax parcel 17-004-033 and 17-004-033B. It's Plan 2021-05. It expires August the 13th, 2022. We have a plan of action. We have a couple, well, 3 waivers here, and approve or deny the plan. Corey, you want to give us a rundown?
Sure, this is much like the lot line adjustment plan I just spoke of. We received this back in November of last year. We've had some kind of issues working through the process, but we got there, and they have a waiver of 215-19 for the agricultural lot for sewage planning. They have in the process of reviewing the plan, we noted that the building lot that has the house on it only has a primary. However, the Planning Commission recommended approval of that waiver as well for 215-19. And we also have the waiver of 215-8, which is to be treated as a final minor subdivision. Staff recommends approval of the plan and the waivers as they sit.
Okay, well, we'll step down to waivers here. Do I hear a motion to approve the first waiver request of the Saldo 215-19?
I move that we approve waiver request Saldo 215-19 for parcel 17-004-033.
Patty made a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Chuck seconds. Discussion by the board.
I have in a nutshell, what does this mean? So that everybody.
Our code right now, if you're subdividing a property to put a house on, you're required to have a primary septic and then a backup location in case the primary would fail. This house was put in prior to that ordinance, so there's just a primary on that site. However, the building lot is over 10 acres in size, so theoretically there should be some place on that property that they would be able to get a backup.
And this is just a line adjustment.
It's a less than 0.2 acres,
Okay.
a lot line adjustment.
I will tell the board that sometime in the late 1980s, there was a fella that had that piece of ground out there, and he probably did 50 soil log and perk tests on the property because it was supposed to be the Quail Run subdivision, which didn't go anywhere. And then the Weavers bought the property. So I'm sure there's more than ample backup. It's just not there on this replot. But everybody may not know that. So. Okay, got a motion second. Any other discussion? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, waiver request for the Saldo Chapter 215-8 minor subdivision plan. To go through as a single plan procedure. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Bob makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Chuck seconds. Discussion by the board. Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of the waiver signify by saying aye.
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 Dave, I have a question about number 2. When we had the last vote, did we
Motion
approve
approved.
both of those?
What's that?
There's 2.
Because there were 2 lots without the sewage, Dave, we did 2 separate waivers,
Okay.
just for clarity.
So do we need to vote on number 2?
Yeah, we can do that. Make it official. All right, well, we're on single plan procedure. I guess, do I hear a motion to approve the waiver request for 215 on parcel 17004-33B?
So moved.
Bob makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Patty seconds. Any question or discussion by the board? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 17-004-033B is approved. And finally, approval or denial of the plan for 2021-05 Weaver replat of tax parcel 17-004-33 and 17-004-33B. Do I hear a motion, one way or the other?
I'll move that we approve Plan 2021-05, Weaver replot of tax parcel 17-004-0033 and 17-004-033B.
Ron makes a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Patty seconds. Do we have any discussion by the board? Okay, hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Plan approved. Finally.
I've got to get the owner's signatures and I'll bring the plan back in for some.
Okay, that'll be fine.
All right, thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks for coming in. Okay, next on our list, Halfmoon Acres preliminary plan subdivision. This is Plan 2021-02, expires on May 31st, 2022. And the developer has requested offered to grant a 60-day time extension. They've done so by email dated May 18th, 2022. If accepted, the plan would expire on July 20th, 2022. And I guess we can get down through staff comments.
Yeah, just to bring everybody up to speed, this is a plan we've been dealing with for about a year now. It's a 69 lot subdivision off of Halfmoon Valley Road that proposes its own public wastewater treatment system as well as its own public water system. Planning and zoning comments at this point, we actually had a meeting with the developer the other day and his attorney. I was there with Amy and our solicitor as well. And we've kind of talked a few things out in that. Probably the biggest outlying issue that the planning and zoning has with this is a waiver has been requested of 215-16E3, which states that for single access subdivision, you would have a boulevard style entrance and then a internal loop system that would come back to that, to have for emergency access. They have agreed to look into the options of, possibly doing that, but I think maybe we could have them speak to it a little more.
Sure.
Please state your name and who you represent.
Yep. Good evening. My name's Ash McCombie. I'm an attorney with McNeese, Wallace & Merrick. We represent Halfmoon Acres. With me this evening is Mark Maloney, principal at Halfmoon Acres. I appreciate Corey's kind of introduction there. I think he said it pretty well. We had a great meeting yesterday with staff, including Zach Rice, your solicitor, and walked through the comment letters. I believe, Amy, were you able to send those out, the letters that I sent today out to the board?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And so what I try to do in the one letter that's addressed to Corey and Zach is outline where we are with the comments at this point. And several of them are comments that HRG, Halfmoon's engineer, is able to make minor tweaks to the plan to fix. Another handful of them are comments that generally would be dealt with during final plan approval or as conditions of final plan approval. And it really leaves us with two comments that we're working through. One of those deals with the required open land, and your solicitor, Zach Rice, and I have worked out some language that we think will be able to address that as a plan note on the preliminary plan. And then the other one is dealing with the loop road, as Corey mentioned. Although it's our opinion that the ordinance doesn't require a loop road, we're certainly willing to look into the possibility, and actually have already started looking into that possibility. And so with the momentum that we have going forward and the good communication we have going with staff right now, we're asking for a 60-day extension to give us some more time to work through those last two issues with them and then come back to you all to answer any additional questions and represent the plan.
I guess I would have to ask, and I know you're the attorney, not the engineer, but what has the developer set forth in his proposal or their proposal for creating that loop access? So we have 2 points of access and egress onto the property for the number of lots that are out there.
Yeah, so our understanding coming out of the discussion is that you're allowed to have a boulevard entrance coming in off of 550 to create your dual access. But under the ordinance, then the internal access drives need to be a loop. You can't go straight into a cul-de-sac is the way it's being interpreted. since we have cul-de-sacs, the interpretation is we would have to go from boulevard to loop road to cul-de-sac. And so that's what we're looking into. But I believe, at least with staff, we're all in the agreement that you can come off 550 with the boulevard entrance.
Okay, well, I will tell you, I was here when that ordinance was put into place, and I probably have my penmanship on that as well. The reason why that ordinance was created is because, and I'll just say, like Sawmill Road, which I know you're not familiar with, or maybe you are, but it's a single access street system. There's only one entrance onto 550, and when you go back there, I think there's like 51 houses accessing that. And that was prior to the adoption of our single access street system. And the reason why that was put into place is because if there's an accident on that road, or something happens, there's no other way for those people to get out. If the township has to replace a pipe, fix a water line, whatever it is, we have no ability to run people out in another direction. So maybe not so much with a boulevard, but a boulevard is one road in and one road out. It basically, I mean, for all intents and purposes, from a design standpoint, it's a single point of access onto 550. You know, you didn't get two separate highway occupancy permits from PennDOT for it. It's one occupancy permit. So I don't really, I wasn't present at the meeting, so you can correct me if I'm completely wrong, but if you have a boulevard entrance and it comes out, it's under a single permit, it's a single access, that doesn't make a loop road in my mind as to, you know, allowing people to come out another way if there's a problem at that intersection. If a truck crashes there, there's no other way to get anybody out. If there's a house on fire, there, you know, obviously, if there's two houses on a road, then chances of having a problem are lower than if there's 50 houses on a road. So in order to get that single access street system out of there and come up with some design solution, I was just, you know, because that's one of the major sticking points on this, and I know you've requested a waiver for it, and I'm doing a lot of talking here, but I am concerned about access and egress into this development. It's not a small, by our standards, it's not a small development. And I don't believe that a boulevard entrance with a bubble at the end of it meets the intent of the ordinance. That's my opinion. I'm not an attorney, but I was just wondering what you were going to try to do, if you were going to try to do something that was different than just saying it's a boulevard entrance.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback, and, you know, having that additional history is always helpful when we're looking at a plan, so thank you. It's something we can look at. You know, I know we've looked at, you know, ways to do two separated, far apart points of access in the past with Patton Township, you know, down the road and that type of stuff. But we're certainly happy to work with, you know, staff over the next 60 days here to see what we can come up with. But I think the starting point for us is going to be looking at that boulevard, because that was the feedback that we were receiving over the last couple comment letters and yesterday.
Is 2 ways in, 2 ways out, is that a requirement?
No, you're allowed to have a single access subdivision. It's the amount of lots that are on there, and it requires, with this, with our code, the way that it sits, you are required to have the loop.
So why wasn't this already addressed?
Which part?
I mean, the needing to have a loop, to have the road loop.
Well, there had never been a clear discussion, clear answer, clear decision. So we've been working under the interpretation that, you know, originally, as you probably remember, it was going to go into Patton Township. When that was pulled out, we pivoted and started having conversations about the boulevard entrance. And so the way we had looked at it was, with the boulevard entrance, you could have the cul-de-sacs coming off, because, as I said in the letter, to me at least, there's no real practical difference. I think it's kind of the point that Supervisor Piper was making, right? If you're coming in on the boulevard, it's a single point of access. However, as we worked through that process, you know, the feedback we were receiving from staff was, you know, that's not the way they're going to look at it. So we need to look at other options, and that's when we started having a discussion about a loop coming off the boulevard to meet the requirements, you know, the black and white requirements of the ordinance.
I can speak to something a little bit too. Maybe Mr. Maloney can help me with this too. I know in very early stages of this, you brought up it was an issue with Pantera saying that there was the steepness of that road for the looping that had been looked at in the past. It was
Right.
kind of an engineering issue. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but
And also, if I can jump in, Mr. Chair, just as far as the timing and to Mr. Cervelo's question about, why wasn't this on the plan? They had been asking for a waiver at the most recent, on this particular issue from this provision of the ordinance. At the last planning commission meeting, the planning commission recommended denial of that waiver. Therefore, I think that's why they're here saying, okay, based on where we're at now with the feedback that we've got from the planning commission, we're sort of reassessing what we've got to do here, and we just need some time to do it. And I think the value of the meeting that we did have, and I'll generally echo everything that both Ash and Corey have said as far as of the meeting, is I think we've identified, and Ash's letter that I believe you've all seen, I think does a good job identifying the items that can be easily addressed or in the process of being addressed, certain items that don't need to be addressed as far as the timing of preliminary plan. And then, there's these couple other things that we're working through. So I think the value, and I appreciate Ash providing you with that, because I think the value is when a developer comes in and seeks an extension, it's important for them to tell you, hey, here we've identified what we need to do and what we're in the process of working on, and here's what we plan to do with the time that we're asking you to give us. So I think it's, from the standpoint of the justification for an extension, I think it's helpful to have them provide something like they did to provide to you, so that you're informed as to where this extension is coming from and why it's necessary, as opposed to a developer just saying, hey, we'd like an extension of time, and there's no real understanding of where things are headed.
Well, but I still don't see a reason for the extension. I don't. I thought the purpose of the meeting the other day was to determine once and for all the purpose of the extension. To be clear on that. That was my understanding. We didn't get that, did we? Did we get clarity on that?
We got clarity that they were willing to look into the possibility of doing that.
But no commitment to actually do it.
I can tell you, I will do it. I will analyze every possible way. Pentair tried to do it. They presented various scenarios and would have ended up requiring a waiver of the slope, the maximum slope that you're allowed to have on a road. We didn't want to do that, because that creates another danger when you're coming down around a turn with too steep of a slope. We feel HRG has now, I have a sketch plan that I brought, which was just a quick brainstorm in case we needed it tonight. We have a very interesting loop layout that in the last 3 or 4 days, HRG came up with a sketch plan. It's very crude, but it looks like it will meet all the requirements. It's below the maximum slope. It's safe. I didn't think of this layout. I mean, even though my background is engineering, I didn't see this layout, and HRG came up with something. So I will commit to doing this analysis and presenting something fully compliant.
What was the purpose of the last extension?
Give them additional time to address staff's comments.
Did it include the loop?
That has been a part of their waiver request for quite some time.
You see what the problem I'm having
Not
here.
a comment.
The waiver hadn't received a recommendation of denial on that comment. And so I think in some of the conversations with the planning commission, the loop was discussed, the waiver was discussed, but there was never a confirmation that no, we're not gonna recommend approval of that waiver. Once we received the confirmation that they were not gonna recommend approval of the waiver, then it's forced us to go back and reanalyze and see if we can come up with a loop.
My concern is that, I've been here for 5 months. I've seen, 3 or 4 versions of this plan in that amount of time. It's the staff and the supervisors as well are inundated with information on this plan. And the process that it has occurred does not build confidence in me personally. Okay, and as to the viability of the plan. I mean, I see a plan, I see comments regarding the plan back to the developer. I see another plan come in. I see plans come in the day of the planning commission meeting. you know, boom, they get hit with another set of plans. And there's more comments, but they're different. I see version, you know, reiteration after iteration of the plan, of this plan, and that, it's very complicated and very difficult to assess everything, okay? And, I mean, I've done a lot of learning in that 5 months. I'm an engineer too, by the way. And I've reviewed these plans. I put them side by side on, you know, and sheet by sheet, and did compared them. And just to have another set of plans come in, right, you know, at the day of the planning commission meeting, they're to advise us. So it's been a difficult process. What I can't understand is why weren't these issues addressed before now?
And I think what I'm trying to say to you is, you know, we agree with you, it is a complicated process, and that's why there are so many comments, and it goes back and forth, and there's reviews and changes and reviews and changes. And that's why I tried to provide a letter to show that we're down to 2 comments essentially. We're down to the Loop Road comment, and we're down to the open land comment at this point. And so to your point, you know, like I said, I think the reason we had not switched gears and switched to the looped road was because it wasn't until we received the recommendation of denial from the planning commission that said we are not going to recommend approval of your plan without a loop road, right? We're not gonna recommend approval of that
Okay.
waiver. That was the time that we were able to start thinking, okay, how are we gonna go about?
But there's still no specific commitment, and that was the purpose of the meeting, as I understand it, to get a commitment that there would be a loop. The purpose of the extension will be to add a loop road. And I'm still not hearing that.
The purpose, my understanding.
I'm still not seeing that.
Is the purpose of the extension is to investigate the feasibility of a loop road. Mr. Maloney's committed to doing a loop road if it's feasible, but if the engineering comes back and says you're gonna have an unsafe road, it's gonna be blind turns, it's going to be too steep, or whatever it is, then I don't think, you know, he would not be comfortable installing that type of road. So we're certainly willing to look into it. That's the plan. We already have the concept. We already have HRG working on what that plan's going to look like to implement the requirements of the ordinance. But we gotta do it within the requirements of the ordinance, and you know, you have slope requirements and things like that we've gotta comply with.
But there's a reason to have a loop road. So the purpose is obvious. It's safety. It's life safety. That's the purpose of it. If we come back here in 60 days and we still don't have a solution to that requirement, we're gonna be right back at this again. I mean, I'm just speaking as candidly and honestly as I can, from everything I understand. And I'm not sure.
I can jump in on that last point, Mr. Cervelo. And I think to the extent the extension were to be granted, if that was the direction the board pursued, presumably at that end of that 60-day period, we would have sort of a commitment or not a commitment to use that terminology. At that point, we'd hear, hey, we investigated the feasibility of the loop concept that we have apparently sort of in a conceptual stage at this point, and it can work, and it's on the plans, and we want to move forward, and we think, you know, the plan is ready to go. Or at that point, if they were to say, we've investigated it and we don't think it can work, they would be at the position where they would have to ask for that waiver, you know, because again, regardless of whether, you know, there's maybe perhaps a disconnect onto the value of that provision. At the end of the day, the provision's in the ordinance, and I think it's fairly clear. So at that point, the developer would be coming to you and saying, we're seeking a waiver from that provision, but otherwise we probably will have knocked out the balance of the comments. So at that point, it would be a plan in front of you with a major decision on a waiver request. So I think either way, and maybe Ash can speak to this or Mark as far as timing, but either way, I think the value of the extension, if it were to be granted, is that it would be sort of the last bite of the apple to figure out that question, and it would be at a point where either looping is happening and it's been formalized on the plan and it's compliant, or it's not, and there would need to be some.
That's good for a while.
There's something else wrong.
I think I concur with the essence of what Zach was saying before he got cut out. I mean, within 60 days, we'll know whether the loop road is feasible or not, and if it is, it's gonna be on the plan.
I have a couple questions in various veins, maybe you can help me with. At one point, we had talked about the State College Borough Water Authority supplying water to the development. And then just recently, a set of plans come in and we're gonna do our own water system. Okay, well, there's a world of difference between State College Borough Water Authority and, you know, Mr. Maloney's water system. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of rules to go with it. One is a water authority and they're set up to monitor and run a water system, and the other one is a water system that's not been invented yet. I'd kind of like to know why the change. And let me just run down through here. And then with the sewer collection system, I mean, generally, when you're designing, in another life, I used to do this for a living. When you're designing a development and you have public sewer, public water, and any other utilities, they're all shown on the plan. There's manholes shown, there's collection systems, you know, it might say, you know, Schedule 35 pipe, and the manhole inverts and outlets. And I know our ordinance under preliminary plan says to the nearest foot and angles to the nearest degree. But I haven't seen any sewer plans at all. And I think that it's going to have an effect on our road right away. So if the township's looking at giving a preliminary approval on something, I know that, you know, you draw plans and plans change, maybe something's not, you know, not feasible to do exactly as it's drawn, or maybe an elevation has to change on the road or something like that. But we don't even have a set of plan and profiles to say this is basically what we're putting in. I mean, I have no idea whether the sewer's gonna get to the bottom of the hill right now, or it's gonna run out of a drain pipe someplace, because there's nothing, there's no details. There's nothing I can look at and compare. So I'm concerned about the water system, I'm concerned about the sewage collection system. I'm concerned about the sewage treatment system, because I don't know, I have no idea, you know, what that thing's gonna look like. You know, are we gonna have a big concrete bin with some flowers growing in it and letting the bugs fly around, or are we gonna, you know, have an actual sewage treatment plant with a spray, biomembrane, whatever? You know, there's no way of knowing right now how that's gonna be treated. And to ask the board, this goes to sewage planning, and I know some of it's in the DEP's wheelhouse and some of it's not, but to ask the board to approve a subdivision land development plan with something that's so out of the norm on this township is on-site sewage. We do allow community on-lot disposal under we have a Saldo, or in the Saldo, we do have an ordinance that regulates that. But there's nothing that this board can look at to say, this is how it's being processed. You know, does it make sense? And having been a long-term resident of the State College area, I can point to several attempts that developers had made over the last, I don't know, 50 years to build their own sewage treatment plants. And as far as I can tell, every single one of them has been consumed and replumbed to the University Area Sewer Authority. Okay, and I think, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but I think the majority will on this board is that we do not want to have public sewer in the township. So we are very reluctant to allow something to be created that we have no information on, or even to approve a concept on something that we have no information on, that may possibly lead to public sewer being forced upon the township by the DEP when the unit fails. And like I said, you know, even Pine Grove Mills, which was in Ferguson Township when I was a young man, had its own sewer treatment plant. And that had all kind of problems with it, with the municipality running it. So, you know, and eventually the UAJA, or Patton Ferguson, or however it was set up, put a pump down there and collected it up, and it's all being driven over to the backside of the Nittany Mall out there, Shiloh Road area. So, I mean, to sit here and ask the township supervisor to approve something like that, I mean, we have no background, we have no information.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt. I believe we're jumping, I'm getting a little confused as to where we are. Could we go back? I believe we're supposed to be on DI, whether we're granting the 60-day time extension.
Well, I think that.
Because these are all other separate things down here to go
Right.
through.
But I'm just trying to get some information to see what they're gonna bring forth. And I don't mean to ramble, but do you have any answers to any of those things?
Yeah, I think Steve Kirsch is on the line. He can jump in if he wants here, but I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to put before you is a plan that's compliant with the ordinances and making sure we're compliant with DEP's permitting process and everything else that goes with it. And at this point, You know, I think with the staff letters, you know, we've got the component 3, component 2 that we're gonna have to work through. They're not required at this point for preliminary plan approval. And so we're, you know, continuing to work on those in parallel with the rest of the plan. But I don't believe that they're required at this juncture for preliminary plan approval.
So you're asking us to approve a concept, but we don't have the whole picture, is what you're saying.
It's a concept, yes. Preliminary plans are generally a concept of what you're doing, and then when you get the final plan is when you have the final details of everything. That's correct.
You know, if you look in our ordinance, there's very little difference between preliminary plan requirements and final plan requirements.
We have a set of waivers to go through until we get down to that one, right?
Right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Don, you look like you're itching to say something.
Yeah, as far as an extension to see what they're gonna come up with a loop, I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
Nor do I.
Just to see, okay, there's something they're coming up with, let's see it.
Yes, ma'am, if you wanna, or if it's short.
I was just going to ask Amy to please bring up the request for the 60-day extension, because it was reading more that Halfmoon Township was being granted the 60 days.
That's
We are.
That's the way
That's the way it works.
The municipality's planning code says that we have 90 days to review a subdivision plan and act on it.
Okay,
And we don't have, the supervisors don't have the right to extend that. We have to act, we have to say yea or nay. It is the developer's agent that gives us permission to have additional time. And I'm sorry for the confusion, and it's always a confusing thing, but
okay.
yeah,
It
that's what
just read
happened.
backwards to me.
Yeah, it does,
They were
but
waiting for.
there's a reason for that. They don't want the townships to sit on it for too long. All right, so I guess we got a time extension request. Corey, you got anything to add?
I mean, I think if they're committed to doing the loop road, or, you know, and investigating that to the best of their ability, I think it's one more extension. But I think if we're just gonna get to this point 60 days from now, that's again up to the purview of the board.
Well, I could see the extension through, but I can promise you this. If we do extend it in 60 days, I'm gonna vote to shoot it down if there isn't solutions there. And I don't see, I mean, generally when a plan's submitted, when it comes back, it's reviewed by staff, the little lines disappear and everybody addresses it. And I think we got a lot of elephants in the room, and we're not really getting to address it. And I still consider the water and the sewer a big issue, personally. Anybody else on the board have any opinion?
I tend to agree.
I can echo your concerns about the idea of having a wastewater treatment plant up on the side of that mountain. I don't like the idea myself, personally. I think it's a very bad idea, like you commented, you know. 50 years from now, everybody in this room is gonna be long gone, or pretty close to it. And, you know, who knows what's gonna happen in the future, and I just feel like someday, eventually, it's gonna fall to the municipality to run that thing. And, I don't really wanna put Halfmoon Township in a position to, become a water treatment, business. That having been said, if everything meets code and there's no legal reason we can stand in the way of this type of plan, you know, what are you
Well, then
gonna
we
do?
have to approve it, obviously.
Yes, exactly. But those are just my personal feelings. I have no problem with granting a waiver to see if you can fix the road issue.
You mean
know.
an extension?
Or yeah, the extension, excuse me. You know, I'd love to see what you come up with. A question, is there a possibility of going out into your property I'm pretty sure your property extends into Patton Township, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so could
The
you bring the
longer-
road out and along and,
So the zoomed out bigger picture of this
Yeah.
whole thing, I absolutely will connect through Patton Township. It's a timing problem, so since I'm not really crazy about the idea of moving two separate land development plans through the process simultaneously.
Yeah, for
one in
obvious
Halfmoon and
reasons.
one in Patton
Yeah.
at the same time, and HRG is already pretty busy, most engineering firms are overloaded right now.
yeah, of course.
We're doing one at a time.
Yeah.
And the long-term plan is to connect all the way, so continue the road, it'll have a temporary cul-de-sac, continue it then across the line into Patton, and come back down, which is on my other farm.
Yeah.
Greenmore over there on the other side, and connect. This idea of doing a loop, we're gonna be limited, Corey explained, yesterday at the meeting, we're limited to only 50 homes. We can't even do the balance of the 19 till we connect through into Patton Township.
Yeah,
So there's a couple of other constraints besides having to do the loop road,
yeah,
and we're gonna address all of that,
okay.
yeah.
I think our concern with the loop road system is that they don't have a plan in Patton, and we can't foresee the future that plan
Yeah,
gets
sure.
approved there.
Well, we have to look at it the way we're looking.
We have to look at it as it's a single access subdivision.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
would
we
like
have
to-
no
while we
control
were-
over the other one, so we
we have no
can't,
control over
we
what
can't
happens
even
in Patton
consider.
Township. I would like to mention though too, that the country lots that are up on the mountain still have to have their sewage testing done too. I know Mr. Maloney said he's working with code to get those done, but at this point, we do not have perk locations.
Waiting on the weather, there was just 3 lots on the top.
Yeah.
Out of the 69, there's only 3 that'll have, septic, sites.
But that is another requirement of our SAL though, that they have a primary to back up, much like the waivers that we granted
Well,
earlier.
I would say if a 60-day extension is granted, that any deficiencies in the plan be addressed adequately. That, in my mind, is the only reason to grant an extension. Or to accept an extension, I should say. You grant the extension, we accept it or not.
Any other supervisors on the subject?
Yeah, I'm fine with the extension, is under the discussions that have been said.
Do staff agree?
I'd just like to drop in a couple of comments, and you folks can take them for what they are. What was it, 4 years ago? We proposed expanding the growth boundary. You were part of that. That's why I was in favor of this growth boundary expansion, because it was only going to be a small section of the beginning of the east side of east side of the township. And it would have allowed for development such as this with smaller lot sizes, nice homes. That increases the tax base, and that helps the municipality with budgeting constraints, Increase your tax base, you have more income. And also, if we had done that at that time, we wouldn't be having this conversation about potentially having a water treatment plant on the top of a ridge or wherever it's supposed to go. I understand it's the wishes of the majority of the township that expansion of the growth boundary was not the way to go, but I personally would really recommend that in the future that be considered again, because of, again, we have budgeting problems, and the only way to proceed is to grow your tax base. So, I think what I'm driving at, Mr. Maloney, is I'm not against your development whatsoever. I'm against what needs to be done with the municipal waste. And unfortunately, we put you in that position to need to do that. So, here we are. But anyway, I just needed to add that. I just wanted to put some background to how we got here for anyone who might be watching or anyone.
Supervisor Strauss, I'm sorry, I don't think Mr. Maloney's property was actually in where the small area plan was, so.
It wasn't.
No, that was,
I thought it was. There was different pieces of it. The small area plan,
Yeah.
concentrated on the south side of 550.
Right.
okay,
If
that's
what you're
what I was
Yes.
getting to.
The current piece that we are proposing for what I call phase 2 is in Halfmoon on the north side.
Mhm.
So if you look at the quadrants, right, so 550 bisects
Mhm.
my land this way, and then the township line bisects it, you know, almost north and south. The quadrant that is north Half Moon is.
Yes.
Was not part of the small area plan.
Yeah,
Correct. But
yes.
everything across 550 was all part of the small
Yeah,
area plan.
and what you're proposing, this development now, that still was part of the growth boundary
Originally,
expansion.
way back.
Yeah.
The conversation of growth boundary expansion goes back to 2006.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
But again, how we got here was
Correct.
that because,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
so, again,
All
I
right,
just wanted
well-
to give some background, so.
I guess if the board wants to, do I hear a motion to accept the extension till July 30th, 2022?
I move that we accept the extension.
I'll second.
Patty seconded, Bob moved. Any other discussion by the board? All right, all those in favor of allowing the extension signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. You got your extension.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
I think it's important for us to keep in mind why we have the regulations that we have.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Because some properties can only sustain a certain density. The south is different than the north. That's my concern.
So does that mean we can jump down, skip all
Yes.
that other?
Yeah, I think so. Well, we have Port Matilda Fire Company on here under,
John couldn't make it.
he's not gonna be here, all right.
That was just part, that was
That,
was
well, I
part of
know
the
it's part of the
review.
development, but I didn't know if they had something startling to come in relay.
number 3.
We know what the planning commission's recommendation is, we did our plan of action, they've got an extension.
So we're on the approval of minutes.
Approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as written for May 12th, 2022?
So moved.
Bob made a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Ron second. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, approved. Consent agenda, which is approve of payment of the bills for the period of 5/7/2022 to 5/20/2022 from the following funds. General fund in the amount of $9,866.85. Open Space Preservation Fund, the amount of $50. Park and Recreation Fund, the amount of $2,999.62. And the appointment of Dunn Stacovey to the Center Region COG Climate Action and Sustainability Committee as a non-voting member. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Patty makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Bob seconds. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Next action item. Appoint Public Works Department employees. We had a executive meeting and we decided to hire 2 full-time employees for the road crew and 1 part-time employee for the road crew. That would be Derek Reese is a full-time employee at $20 an hour with full-time benefits. Charles Beck is a full-time employee at $20 an hour with benefits, full-time. And Mr. Dan Truax is a part-time employee, non-CDL driver at $16.50 an hour. Do I hear a motion by the board to sign those people on officially?
I'll make the motion.
Ron makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Patty seconds. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion approved. Discussion items. Administrative Office Renovation Relocation Project Update by
Are we
Ron
gonna-
Cervelo.
Dave, are we gonna do anything with the zoning officer or the, or is that not on the
We don't have
final?
that back.
We don't have a
Okay.
contract yet, and I guess we don't have anything on the ball field either, do we?
We just got that today.
Oh, you just
but
got that?
We did.
Okay.
Okay.
We gotta look at it.
So we're on to the next one then.
Yep.
All right, Administrative Office Renovation Relocation Project Update. Well, let's see. We got the new locks installed on the doors, door closers, window in the office door, a new sign on next to the door. That's done. Some touch-up painting was done. They don't have a schedule yet or delivery schedule for the furnishings, so I'm still waiting for that from Stillcase, McCartney's. Should hear something pretty soon. But the lead times on this stuff is a lot longer than it used to be. So we were projecting it to be late July, early August to get that stuff. The data wiring installation, that was supposed to happen this week, I thought, but it'll probably happen next week. The equipment that goes with it, wireless access point and other related equipment, we just got the quote for that today. That's gonna be ordered. It should be a fairly short turnaround to get all that installed. I would imagine within the next couple of weeks, that'll all be done. And the HVAC, some ductwork changes in the office space, that should happen within the next 2 weeks as well. I don't have a schedule on that yet, but it's either gonna be next week or the following week for sure. And that's just some minor ductwork changes. So it looks like we're gonna be ready to make a move probably early to mid-August. And the move itself, we're gonna, staff and some of us are going to help make some of the moves. And we'll have IT, State College Borough IT is involved in handling all the IT related stuff.
And hopefully they can figure out why our internet's not.
Well, that's good. What, with wireless access points directly in the space, my understanding is from talking with them, from speaking with them, is that that will improve the data flow. So, that's the status on that.
Cisco standalone access points that are hardwired into the router, where the signal comes into the building, tend to be much more reliable than the built-in ones in the modem that you get. That's what we use professionally in all the office buildings and bank branches, and looks like a white frisbee or so. It hangs in the middle of the ceiling, and has a little light on it, and turns colors when you connect different devices, and it's neat.
Okay.
But they tend to be much more stable than the things that are provided by Comcast.
That would be good. That would help with Zoom a lot.
Yes, it would.
And so what's being done for the office is also going to be done for this space as well.
Yeah. One
It's
in
in
each
a room. You don't do separate wiring jobs. You do it all at one time.
No. One access point in each room?
Yeah, the access point here, and my understanding is there's a piece of equipment required for the office that also, they'll be placed in the office where the service comes in, that I guess it has a dual purpose. One of the purposes is wireless access. So that's what Dakota told me this morning.
Okay.
That's how they're, I guess they know what to get.
Our IT's on it.
But
I trust them.
Yep. So that's that.
Thank you, gentlemen. B, shoulder maintenance and possible widening of Smith Road. What I wanted to do was look into, Chuck Beck and I had talked, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. Part of the problem with Smith Road is the shoulders, the edge of the road are broken off, there's no shoulders on it, it's rough. And in order to correct that problem, the best thing to do, at least I believe the best thing to do, and I will defer to our engineers, to take a milling machine and get down along the side, straighten up the pavement, and then add the extension on that you want to add. And what I would like to do is have our engineer take a look at it, and maybe get together with Mr. Beck down there.
No, that's definitely what you want to do. The edge is junk, so you cut in either 6 inches or a foot, and then widen it out. And like I had shown a couple months ago when I was looking at the right-of-way in Smith Road, you have a lot of areas that are 50 feet, other areas that are 41 and a half, and other areas that are 33. So some of that widening may be a little difficult. I do have an idea where those areas are as far as where we have enough room. Were you looking at doing the stormwater from Corn Road down to Buffalo at all this year?
Yeah, I think
Doing that in-house?
Yep. I think we get everybody on board here in the next couple of weeks, and we're gonna start doing that, and the one on this end, it comes down the hill there,
Off of Paul's Lane.
yeah, if you follow.
Oh,
it
yeah,
down.
there's the second place, but
Yeah.
that would be my most critical, I think, is to get those areas where you get some severe washout, get them in. And like the one from Corn Road down to Buffalo, I know there it's only 33 feet, 16 and a half from that side. So that's one where you can't push that back very much. So getting any widening done will be a little tough there. But
Well, Don,
Yeah.
I wanted to comment that I'd actually taken a tape measure, walked the road, I walk out there all the time. There's portions of Smith Road, when you get closer to Marengo, the paved surface is 15 feet wide. And yet, the upper end, the eastern end half of Smith Road is much wider. You get around the curve near Charlotte and on down.
There's some of the newer subdivisions in there. I don't know if
19 to
that's why it's
20 feet wide.
But that's in the area where it's also, in general, more of the 50-foot right-of-ways on the east.
So I understand where you come from. I also measured, a lot of the side roads typically are 18 feet wide.
Yep. Yeah, I would say probably 90% of your township roads are about 18 foot on the
Right.
button.
But parts of Smith are just narrow.
Yeah. It's probably an old gravel road, became a tar and chip road, and just a couple layers of pavement on it.
You got it.
That's what happened.
So, well, anyways, I would like the board to grant permission for Dawn to work with Chuck and lay out a potential solution here and see if we can afford to do anything this year, if it fits into our budget, whatever. But we need to get some numbers together and,
For some reason, asphalt prices are a little bit high right now.
yeah.
But I also wanted to point out something. Now, this is not the same idea that we discussed a couple months ago,
No.
which was a generally significant widening
Yeah.
of Smith Road. This is to repair, basically,
Broken shoulders,
Yeah.
broken asphalt edges.
And this would just be in certain locations, not.
It may be that if the road's wide enough and it just needs shoulders, then maybe we just do the shoulders, so.
Or may not need anything in certain parts.
That's
probably
that's
some
possible,
parts
but we need our professionals to walk the road and make a decision.
And
Because
basically from Toe Hill Road down to Marengo.
Yeah.
This end is okay.
This end was just redone.
When you-
Yeah,
when you
6 or
make
7
that
years
corner
ago.
From there to Marengo,
Like
that's
it
the
off.
worst.
it probably needs the shoulders upgraded a little bit. When you have your crew, you can
a lot of berming
get after them, but.
needs to
Well, we
happen.
do, and there was a load of stone ordered Tuesday, I believe, and it just came this afternoon because we're gonna address some potholes, hopefully tomorrow on Davison Road. Just kind of dress that up a little bit and get a couple things started, but yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a lot of stone work on just about every street this summer, as we can. You know, jump in and throw a couple load in, but then again, kind of got to watch the budget because it wouldn't take much to spend $50,000 in stone real quick.
Especially
Since
today's
everything else
prices.
has increased. So,
Yep.
but anyways, I like to work it as much as we can and work on them drainage issues that we were talking about there a couple minutes ago.
All right, do I hear a motion to go forward with the evaluation of the project, and it'll come back to the board here for the next meeting possibly?
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Chuck seconds.
Honestly, do we need a motion?
Well,
It's just a
I think we're directing our
directive to-
engineer to work on doing a layout and bring a
I guess
report
it
back.
doesn't hurt to be safe, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. All right, you guys got your work cut out for you.
So maybe tomorrow we'll spend another couple
Yeah.
minutes looking
Yep.
at that while you're here, so we're gonna be right there.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, and then next on our list regarding that is resurfacing and stormwater on Paul's Lane by Ron Cervelo.
I know, Don, you mentioned this a couple months ago in your report. We were talking about, we gave approval for Orchard Road and Doe Drive for resurfacing. Then Paul's Lane was discussed, but I guess we didn't have a specific plan for it. Or it wasn't part of the last year's plan
No,
for
yeah,
road resurfacing.
it wasn't part of this year's bid, so
Right.
I'm thinking that'd be something that would end up being added to next year's.
Well, the
Or-
reason why I brought it up, or it's on here, is because, I mean, I've looked at that road, and that pipe isn't, I mean, that road is in bad shape.
It's coming
And
up out of the ground.
I believe
Yeah,
it's a
it's
safety hazard too, because the plows can't plow the surface
Right.
because of that dip that's there. And there's a lot of drainage issues related to that too. I would like to, as soon as we can possibly, reset the pipe, repair that issue, and resurface at least a portion of Paul's Lane, back maybe 60 feet from Smith, and make that slope, make that swell proper so that, you know, it's safe. and
Yeah,
it's-
maybe what we could look at is a little in-house project. There could be some handwork right there at the entrance. And I wouldn't be looking even at 60 feet back, but maybe about 10, 15 feet. Something that you could do with your handwork, roll that in.
I'm gonna interrupt you. The reason why Ron's saying that, because I've met him out there, is because on the right-hand side going back Paul's Lane about a 60, 70-foot depth, it's all reflective cracking. There's maybe they paved
It's a
over
mess.
this. over
I
the dirt.
bet it hasn't been paved since it was built in the 70s.
Yeah, well, the cul-de-sac was, because it used to be a triangle instead of a
Oh,
round thing, but I think we're gonna need to get machinery in there and dig out that reflective cracking and take care of that.
Okay.
And, you know, if you guys wanna work together, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm comfortable just authorizing whatever the expenditure is to do the project. Because I think it's a bad situation, especially with that pipe sticking up like that, and next thing you know, the snow's gonna fly, and
People are there concerned about their kids being able to walk across when it's winter and not having, you know,
Yeah.
some ice builds up there and things, and they wait for the bus or whatever. And so I think that's a serious
Chuck,
issue.
we take a look at that one too?
Yeah, I think you're both right, but I say we address the pipe and patch that, take that big dip out of there and fix the end of that road, and then next year, we look at as a board, that's.
As a
on
paving project.
projects.
do you wanna make a motion to do that?
If we need to do some base repair, then we just schedule that in next spring or something.
And that would be something you could get your PennDOT Municipal Services representative to work up a number on that, like what he did this year. That wouldn't take my engineering. Now, looking at the end of the pipe and how we're gonna do that, yeah, I'd be involved in that. But as far as actually paving it back, paving the cul-de-sac, that would be,
You're recommending we put that out on the bid.
yeah, that would be municipal services. It's free.
Okay, free is good. Chuck, do you want to make your statement of motion about you guys taking care of it and whatever expenditures are involved?
I'd rather have them tell us what they're gonna do or need and then come back with what it costs
Okay,
and what their proposal is.
That's
Take
fine.
a measurement, and we've gotta figure out how much pipe we're gonna put in there, because we're gonna have to dig that out.
Since it's not budgeted.
And
Yep.
there again, fix the pipe first, and then go back so far, and I'm with him, I looked at it a couple times, 15, 20 feet. Wherever it goes back, and whenever that hard dip comes up there and it levels out, at least repair that intersection this year, which will address the pipe. Then if we start down the hill, to take care of the water.
I mean, that's something you could do in-house. And right now, getting a contractor to do a little project,
not gonna happen.
oh, it'll happen, but you'll pay for it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna wait
Usually-
9
Yeah.
months.
Well, we're
to-
doing
And they might be doing it the day before the plant's closed, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
And we're doing drainage down along Smith right there anyhow. So we could maybe make that all part of the same repair, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll just keep
You could get a number?
run out of money.
Just get a budgetary figure together and, for the next meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, just real quick while we're on roads, just because it popped into my head.
Sure.
I think I brought up to you folks outside of meetings, there's a concern on Susan Lane, where I think Mr. Wilson connected his subdivision that he did. At the end of Susan Lane, it was
The
brought to my,
cul-de-sac.
yeah, the cul-de-sac. It was brought to my attention by the gentleman who lives right there on that cul-de-sac, that it's potentially a bit of a dangerous situation because of the way the road peaks just before this cul-de-sac. And if you go out there, you'll see what I mean. Don, I think you should probably take a walk
Okay.
out there and take a look at it and see if there are any suggestions you might have to make it a better situation.
I think we talked about what signage.
Yeah, at
Let people
a
know it's the end of
minimum,
the
I think
road.
there needs some sort of extra signage.
Oh,
there,
you're
so-
coming up over and you don't realize you're at the,
At
the end.
well, there should be a
no
no outlet sign along there somewhere, but
Yeah,
I'll take a
but
look
it,
at
it
that.
comes up on you awful quick.
Okay.
After I was contacted, I drove up that road, and I didn't, drove the speed limits and everything, but still, I got to that point, and I came up over that crest, and it was kind of a, oh, And if you're not expecting it, and if you're going too fast, you're gonna go straight across this cul-de-sac, which has a dip in the middle, and you're gonna get airborne, and then on the other side of that road, it goes downhill, so you're gonna go airborne for a while. So,
Yep, we'll
you
take a
know,
look at that.
Yeah, please do.
My concern was the amount of the dip
Yeah.
in the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, there might be actually several things wrong there. There's a drainage pipe that was put in under the road that's only about this big around. Might need some addressing, so.
Yep.
Don's gonna be sorry he came tonight.
No.
Nah.
We might have to bump our time forward more.
Some.
Okay. Public Works in-house project scheduled by Ron Cervelo.
Well, I guess, Chuck, this is some regarding our summer works projects. I didn't know, and I think Chuck is putting together he's putting together some form of a weekly schedule to,
He wants
you know,
to do a monthly.
a monthly.
Right now, they're trying to get the internet figured out over there and get him a computer.
Right,
So
right.
we were talking that hopefully he would have something for the board tonight. But IT just come over today, but what he wants to do is print something out a month. Just so he does June right away. Everybody can see what we're thinking projected for the month, and then he would do another one.
Right.
You know, not go out 6 months, but just go a month at a time.
Yeah,
And
just,
say, look, this is what we're projecting to do, you know, in the next few weeks or whatever.
because that gives us a picture then, a snapshot of what the plan is and what work's going to be accomplished, so we can speak
Right,
more
and
to
then
that.
everybody can look at it and say, well, I don't see, like Bob was saying about that cul-de-sac. Hey, I don't see that on there, we need to address
Yep.
that. And I think the last meeting we talked about that, we weren't sure if that cul-de-sac was complete or not yet.
Mhm.
So I guess maybe we need to find that out, because if that's gonna be a permanent problem, and like he said, there's a small pipe in there, why? Because we have a minimum size of culvert pipe.
Well, that, I believe, is supposed to be part of an under drain system. So like the water that gets in there would filter through.
Yeah, that's the idea.
So it was meant to be a small diameter, but they haven't done anything to the center to improve it, it sounds like, since they paved it last fall. So we'll take a look at that.
Do we still hold bond on that?
I believe so. If it was, I think it was late, very late in the year that they paved it, so we have 18 months from then.
I guess if we need to do anything, we oughta, when you guys are
Yeah.
out there.
It's
Amy,
early
can
enough
you
in the
look up-
season, they might not have got back
look up
yet.
that bond?
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but even if it's not finished, you know, in its current state, perhaps we should put up a sign or
Well, I think
something.
it's
just
not a
kinda-
bad idea to put up
Yeah.
a sign. Cautionary sign there.
Okay. Solar power purchase agreement by all supervisors. We had talked about this at the last meeting, and the township had contributed $150 towards the Center Region solar power purchase investigation. And some of the supervisors felt they were sort of blindsided when the COG came in here and asked for, you know, we need a decision right now. So sometimes it's better to say no than it is to say yes and get stuck with something we don't want to have. So that's back up. I guess it doesn't, Patty, I'm going to defer to you on this. It doesn't cost the township any more money just to ride it, correct?
Correct. All they're looking for at this point was just a ballpark. The recommended ballpark was 50% to 90% of what power we may purchase if the agreement goes through. There's no commitment on anybody's part. This is just to help them get a ballpark of how much electricity they could go out after, from all the 15 people that are entities that are involved in this, to go out and make bids to get prices back. So until the prices come back, then there would be a whole process for evaluating that and going through the contract, and then we can decide if we want to be a part. This is just to help to get bids and just to see if we would be interested. But it's non-binding, it's just, could benefit us, may not, but at least we would find out one way or the other.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out, but because it's non-binding and it has, I don't mind riding a ride as long as it's free.
No, it's
Well-
not free, we already paid for it.
Well, the thing
Not
is,
much.
Well, yeah, not much is correct.
So it's
Yeah,
worth it.
it was confusing to me because we already had paid to participate in the RFP. And
That
I
was-
didn't,
no,
I wasn't expecting a decision. the
Yeah, it
other
wasn't
day,
an
the
RFP
other
that we
week.
paid to participate in. We paid to participate in the consultant. The consultant is
Yeah.
putting together.
He's putting together the RFP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's advising us
Right.
on different things, yeah.
Right.
Or they are.
So anyways, some members of the board had asked that this be brought forward to reconsider. So I guess if we have a motion to reconsider our riding the ride, so to speak.
I just want to add that I think, honestly, I think that information needed to be in by yesterday. So I don't know if you'll still be able to be part of that. I mean, you could try.
Bob, I talked to Joe, and he said that if we reconsidered that,
It was arbitrary.
Yeah.
I just remember they asked for the information by yesterday, and I wasn't sure how they were going to proceed from there.
I move that we reconsider and we use the numbers 50% to 90%.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Patty makes a motion, Bob seconds. Any discussion by the board?
There's no commitment to buying anything. There's no contract. It's simply to have the consultant complete an RFP and basically to get pricing
Correct.
based on a projected range of use.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I guess we're back in if they'll have us.
They will.
All righty. Department reports. Treasurer's report. Back in the back.
If Amy wants to bring it up.
Sure.
As far as specifics, because I see she's struggling to bring it up, really all we need to know is we are where we should be at this point in May. I'll be coming in June to give a mid-year report as to where you guys stand and where it compares to last time.
Okay.
All right.
Things are all looking up from here.
Thank you.
Brett.
Yep.
And it's you again, tax collector. How we doing?
Most people pay during discount. It was our big tax haul of the year. You'll now notice the county municipality for the rest of the year will trickle down. School's getting ready to ramp up, but that doesn't, short of collecting it, it doesn't really affect us.
We don't get a commission?
We do. That's the one side note. It has since increased from 95 cents to $3 a parcel.
Ooh.
So,
All right. Building code zoning report.
Sorry, Dave.
That's all right. I can talk faster. Won't help you.
So we had 5 zoning permits issued. One for a single-family home. And the other 2, here we go. They're not telling me what these are for. I'm sorry. Oh, just a driveway permit, a single-family home, and the other ones were sheds.
Okay. Thank you. Budget report. I guess we'll talk about that next month.
yeah, and it just shows where you are to date, and there's a surplus, which is standard for right now.
Surplus is good.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on to supervisors' reports. Anybody have anything to add?
I haven't, all my committees met at the beginning of the month and I reported on those last time. So.
Okay.
I unfortunately wasn't unable to attend both of my committees this month due to work and personal obligations.
Understand.
Or not this month, excuse me, in this 2-week time period. I attended the ones in the beginning of the month, and I already reported on those.
The general forum was canceled
Yes, the general
last
forum was
week, last
canceled
Monday.
due to lack of agenda items, I believe.
They had a big agenda item, I thought, but
We'll still be working on that,
Yeah,
the building.
the building.
yeah.
All right, Ron, you got anything to add on that?
You mean,
Any
Meeting?
COG meetings you went to?
well, no, we had the Open Space Preservation 5-year Review Committee meeting May 18th. We're formulating our recommendations to the board, and they should be available pretty soon.
Okay. Very good.
And I wanted to point out, I am meeting next Thursday with his Thomas Spanos and his mother Michelle. He's an Eagle Scout. And we're meeting over here next week to discuss the location. I guess I'm gonna help him do it too, of a food pantry for people in need. It'd be some small kind of shelter or something, like the little libraries that people put up, sort of like that. And some repairs to picnic tables that he's proposing to do as part of his Eagle Scout project. I got to coordinate that with the Public Works people to make sure that, you know, we're not in conflict, or that we know what it is we need to do, what he needs to do. It's his project. I'm just helping him with it.
I'm very pleased to hear that this little food pantry is finally going to get done. That was something we came up with about two and a half years ago. And we started working toward it, and then COVID clobbered us, and it just kind of fizzled.
And what's his name? Andy Richards was going to work on it, and something's changed there. So he's taken.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
Thomas taken over as an Eagle Scout project, and I promised I would help him figure it out and help him get it done.
Yeah.
So
It's a good cause too. I mean,
Yeah.
especially with the inflation and the price of gas and everything. There are going to
That'd be an interesting
There are
job to
families in
do.
the municipality and just the surrounding area who are struggling to put food on the table. So if we have a way we can help families, that's great.
Good idea.
I haven't heard back from Stephen Roundtree yet with regard to the tennis court. He was gathering information for us to review, for us to consider in terms of repairs and things like that from the kind of contractors or professionals that handle that kind of stuff. So I'm waiting to hear back from him, but I don't have any updates on that.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right, I'm gonna step down to good and welfare. Anybody have any good and welfare they want to add? And I know Bob does, but if anybody else does.
Yeah, I'd like to wait to after if we have
We
diversity.
can go after diversity.
Yeah,
and-
I don't think we have anybody here for it, but just wanted to make sure.
Anybody have anything for the good and welfare? About diversity, equity, and inclusion? Okay, Mr. Strauss wants to talk about something here for a few minutes, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a prepared statement that I have to read. It's a little long, but bear with me. There's a means to an end here. So anyway, we're here today. So approximately 10 months ago, my wife and I were presented with an opportunity of a lifetime. We have the opportunity to build the home of our dreams in a location that we've always loved. Unfortunately, my family's next chapter will not be inside Halfmoon Township. In the coming weeks, we will be listing our current home for sale. And once our home is sold, I'll be disqualified from serving on the Halfmoon Township Board of Supervisors, unfortunately. Having said that, my intentions have always been to remain on this board and serve the community as long as I can. It gives me a level of great anguish to know that I was elected to serve a 6-year term, and I'm unable to complete that term. And for this, I have regret, and I'm sorry. Again, my intentions were to remain on this board as long as I legally could, but the stress and the time commitments of my full-time job, preparing my current home for sale while overseeing the construction of my new home, and serving on this municipality's board along with the various committees and boards of the Center Region COG and the Bald Eagle COG has become overwhelming. So I have made the decision that it's time for me to step away from my local and regional municipal duties to focus on my family's next chapter. I need to put my family first, and it'll be unfair to the taxpayers of Halfmoon Township for me to continue in this role while not being able to give the job the attention that it needs. So, Mr. Chair, please accept this as my resignation from the Halfmoon Township Board of Supervisors. But also, please accept a few words of advice as well. First, please do whatever it takes to fully fund the Port Matilda Volunteer Fire Department. Whether it be by reallocation of dollars at budgeting time or by raising taxes, we ask these courageous and selfless individuals to run into burning buildings on a volunteer basis. The least the community can do is get them the funds they need to purchase the equipment that keeps them safe and helps them save lives. And that funding should not involve the fire chief having to go from municipality to municipality to beg for money, because that's pretty much the way it's done right now. Second, I'd like to remind every member of this board that we are all individually elected to serve the taxpayers of Halfmoon Township, not just the ones who voted for us. So please respect the opinions of experts and consider all angles of every issue before making decisions, regardless of the topic. And finally, just know that short-sightedness and preconceived opinions and budget scrimping are enemies to municipal government. Please think long and hard. Please think long-term on the issues. Say to yourselves, how will my decisions affect the township right now and in 5 years and in 10 years and even beyond? Remember, elected officials, staff, and tax-paying residents will all come and go, but Halfmoon Township will be here as long as there is a here to be. So please consider the long-term consequences for your decisions being made now. And I thank you all for the opportunity to serve my community, and I will always fondly remember my time in Halfmoon Township where I've raised my children. So thank you all.
Very nice.
This is hard for me.
Thank you.
I'd like to officially thank Bob for his service. I know that he and I do not always disagree, but as I said earlier today, I think his heart's in the right place.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I guess we need a motion to accept Bob Strauss's resignation from the board. Do I hear a
Well, I
motion?
just will say, if you don't accept my resignation, I'm not showing up for the next
Well,
meeting.
then you gotta, we'll drag you down here.
Yeah.
Motion to accept his resignation.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. It's been interesting.
It's been fun.
I will call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks for serving. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's a hard job, as you know.
I'm not totally going away. You'll still see me around.
That's okay. You can come down anytime.
I
You know where the office is.
I still plan to stump for John and the Port Matilda Fire Company guys. In fact, he and I had a conversation tonight about.
I thought maybe John would be here tonight, but
He runs a landscape.
He's a hard guy to get a hold of.
It's that time of year, so if he's not fighting fires and saving lives, he's cutting the grass somewhere. But yeah, I already told him that I was gonna work with him going forward, at least while I'm still in Halfmoon, and maybe bounce from township to township to lobby for them to try and get this funding thing figured out. Because right now, we are light years ahead of the other municipalities involved in the Port Matilda Fire Department as far as funding. And I won't get into it, but you know, it's like there's a lot of work to do. And I told him I'd help him out because I at least have my mouth and I can talk a good game. And,
I'm sure he will appreciate any assistance you are willing to give.
Also, I have one request that I've already spoken to folks, and I request that I be allowed to continue on as Halfmoon's representative to CNET while I'm still a resident. Of course, immediately after I leave the municipality, I would no longer be Halfmoon Township's resident, or excuse me, a representative on that board. Cindy did check in, and it does not have to be an elected official.
I'm
to
fine with
serve on
that.
board.
Does anybody else have a problem with that? Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
You're the CNET representative. Do we call
Yes.
for the question?
We did.
Okay.
We have a second.
Yep. All those in favor of accepting Bob's resignation signify by saying aye.
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 I was gonna say, we already did it.
Yeah, I know. Well, we got in a big conversation. All right.
Mr. Chair, if I could just jump in real quick. I just wanted to go over just the timing so everybody's aware. With the resignation having been accepted, under the second-class township code, the board would have 30 days to fill that vacancy. And if the vacancy remains unfilled, excuse me, after that 30-day period, then your vacancy board would kick into play, so to speak, and the vacancy board would have 15 days to fill the position. So it is sort of a quick turnaround. But I just wanted to go over those provisions so everybody knew what the timing was.
Effective today, Zach?
I believe so.
Effective today, yes, because
Okay.
the resignation was accepted.
Yeah.
So there's a number of different ways that municipalities go about. Some places will be very formal and they'll sort of advertise it and sort of have folks come in and interview. There's no real requirement as far as the sort of the logistics of how you go about it, other than the timing component is set forth very clearly in the code that it is a 30-day period in which the vacancy has to be filled. With you guys meeting twice, that helps to give you some time to, twice a month I should say, give you some time to sort of vet that process and folks that might be interested. But again, I just wanted to remind you that 30-day period, and then if it goes beyond the 30-day period, that's when your vacancy board, which is essentially just the board of supervisors, plus the individual that you would annually appoint to chair the vacancy board, that entity would then have the authority to fill the vacancy and has 15 days to do so.
All right, thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Bob, congratulations.
I really didn't want to quit.